Deep within the Earth's darkest recesses lies a world of mystery and terror. Caves have long fascinated us, but for some, they have become a grave. From the tragic fate of students to the diver whose body remained stuck for 41 years, these underground chambers have witnessed unspeakable horrors. But there are 3 cave incidents that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Join us as we dive deep into the heart of darkness and uncover these chilling tales. But be warned, the 3rd one is not for the faint of heart. Viewer discretion is advised. Cave Creek in Deep Creek Canyon. First, we are headed to Cave Creek in Deep Creek Canyon, where a moment of joy turns into a moment of horror. A group of people, mostly students, were enjoying a beautiful day when disaster struck. The incident would leave behind a trail of grief, shock, and unanswered questions. New Zealand has over 1,500 known caves, and many of them are in Paparoa National Park. The park is famous for its stunning natural beauty, with high cliffs, green rainforests, and rugged coastlines. The park's special rocks, shaped by millions of years of erosion, have created a network of underground tunnels and big rooms, making it a great place for people who love adventure and exploring. Cave Creek is located in Paparoa National Park on the west coast of New Zealand's South Island. It has been a popular destination for tourists and locals alike. The area's amazing scenery, combined with its rich history and culture, make it a great place to visit. A group of students from Tai Pautini Polytechnic, a leading tertiary education provider in Greymouth, New Zealand, visited Paparoa National Park. The Polytechnic, which offers a range of outdoor education and recreation programs, typically organizes several trips to the park each year, providing students with hands-on learning experiences in a unique and beautiful environment. But this time, they didn't know that they would lose 14 lives. The group, led by their tutor, David Benson, was accompanied by 2 Department of Conservation, or DOC officers, Steve O'Halloran and Peter Hodgson. As they made their way through the bush, a smaller group consisting of Benson, O'Halloran, and 3 students, Rachel McNulty, Michael Taylor, and Emily Wilson, split off from the main group. The larger group of 17 students and Hodgson continued towards the scenic viewing platform, unaware of the impending disaster. The scenic viewing platform was a raised observation deck located in Paparoa National Park, offering breathtaking views of the surrounding landscape. The platform was designed to provide a safe and accessible vantage point for visitors to take in the stunning scenery of the canyon below. It was approximately 40 meters above the canyon floor, providing an unobstructed view of the rugged terrain and scenic vistas. The smaller group had wandered off to explore the surrounding area, leaving the main group to proceed to the platform. The students were excited to take in the breathtaking views of the canyon below. Little did they know, their lives were about to take a devastating turn. The events that unfolded would leave a lasting impact on the families and friends of the victims and would become one of New Zealand's most tragic accidents. As the sun shone brightly on April 28, 1995, both groups were filled with excitement and anticipation as they ventured deeper into the heart of Paparoa National Park. The larger group reached the viewing platform first, their footsteps echoing through the stillness of the forest. As they gathered at the edge of the platform, their chatter and laughter filled the air. It was 11:25 a.m., and the students were eager to take in the breathtaking views of the canyon below. But then, in a thoughtless moment, some students started rocking the platform back and forth, not realizing that their playful joke would have devastating consequences. The platform, which was built in 1992, had some design flaws and had not been properly maintained, making it vulnerable to collapse. In fact, the builders of the platform did not have the appropriate qualifications for the job. During its construction, 12 major problems or oversights occurred, including the use of nails instead of bolts to connect the bearers to the piles. This was because no drill was brought to the site, a critical mistake that would later prove disastrous. As a result, the platform was highly unsafe, especially when large numbers of people were on it. As the students continued to rock the platform, it suddenly gave way, toppling forward into the chasm in a heart-stopping instant. From a height of 40 meters, the platform crashed down, sending 14 people plummeting to their deaths. To put this into perspective, most viewing platforms in national parks typically stand at around 10 to 20 meters high, making this platform's collapse all the more catastrophic. In the moments before the tragedy, the students were filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. They were thrilled to be experiencing the thrill of the platform, but they were also aware of the risks involved. As the platform swayed, they felt a growing sense of unease, their laughter and chatter dying down as they realized something was wrong. The sound of screams and crunching wood filled the air as the platform disintegrated, sending its occupants on a fatal free fall into the depths of the canyon below. As the second group arrived, they saw a terrible sight. The platform was broken into pieces, its wooden planks splintered and scattered on the ground. The students' happy sounds had turned to screams and cries of sadness. The air was filled with the sounds of panic and fear as people stumbled around in shock, trying to understand what had happened, their faces frozen in horror. The remaining DOC officer, Steve O'Halloran, and one of the students, Michael Taylor, knew that they had to act fast. They ran back to the start of the track to get help, but when they got there, they realized that they had no way to get back to town. The keys to their vehicles were missing. So, Steve went back to the accident site to help the survivors, while Michael took a note with information about what had happened and started running along the road to find help. The road was a quiet, winding route that snaked its way through the dense forest of Paparoa National Park. It was remote, with few cars passing by, especially on a weekday morning. Michael ran as fast as he could, his feet pounding the asphalt, but he didn't see a single car or person for a long time. The only sounds were the birds chirping in the trees and the rustling of leaves in the wind. Finally, at 12:15 p.m., Michael reached a phone at a remote farmhouse and called the police in Greymouth. Breathlessly, he told them about the platform collapse, his words tumbling out in a rush. The police sprang into action, dispatching ambulances and rescue teams to the scene. The remoteness of the site, deep within Paparoa National Park, made it extremely challenging for medical services to reach the survivors. The first person to arrive at the scene was a Greymouth police constable, who made the arduous journey on foot, taking 2 hours to reach the site. Ambulances from Greymouth and Westport eventually arrived, but the terrain was so difficult that they had to be escorted by police and rescue helicopters. Despite the heroic efforts, only 4 severely injured students were rescued and airlifted to safety. Little Dismal Sink tragedy. Another tragic incident shook the diving community as the world was still reeling from the Cave Creek disaster. A group of divers in Florida would face their own nightmare in the unmapped waters of Little Dismal Sink. A team of skilled divers, including renowned experts like Parker Turner, Bill Gavin, and Bill Main, embarked on an ambitious project to map the Little Dismal Sink in Leon County, Florida. This complex operation involved 3 separate parties working together simultaneously within the cave. Their primary objective was to collect valuable geological and survey data, which would provide insights into the cave's structure and behavior. The expedition was a crucial step in understanding the region's geology and hydrology. By collecting data on the cave's layout and features, the team aimed to identify potential connections to other underground rivers and aquifers. This knowledge would be essential for managing water resources, preventing pollution, and mitigating the risk of sinkholes. Florida has many caves, with over 700 known caves, and among those is Little Dismal Sink, an underwater cave in the Apalachicola National Forest in Florida. It's part of the Leon Sinks cave system and is known for its unique features, including a 75-foot drop into the Floridian aquifer. The Leon Sinks cave system, which includes Little Dismal Sink and Big Dismal Sink, is a network of underwater caves and sinkholes. Big Dismal Sink is a separate cave located in the same area as Little Dismal Sink. It is known for its large entrance and extensive underwater passages. Both caves are only suitable for experienced and fully certified cave divers. On Sunday morning, May 15, 1988, a team went on a mission to gather crucial geological data and survey information for the remaining sections of the upstream and downstream tunnels in the deep part of the cave. The deep section of Little Dismal Sink Cave is a remarkable feature of the cave system, plunging to great depths. It is estimated to be at least 100 feet deep, with some reports suggesting that it reaches as far as 140 feet. This section is marked by narrow passages and underwater tunnels that demand specialized gear and expertise to navigate. The deep section is also notable for its unique geological features, including limestone formations and hidden waterways. Their search began as typical for other dives that went into the cave. Parker Turner and Steve Brown focused on gathering rock samples, igniting a rush of excitement. They both were in the first room, which was the upper section of the cave. This area was characterized by its high ceiling and relatively calm waters, making it an ideal spot for collecting samples. The first room was also known for its unique geological formations, including towering stalactites and stalagmites that rose from the cave floor. Parker and Steve worked methodically, documenting each sample and noting its location and characteristics. Meanwhile, Bill Gavin motored ahead to the downstream tunnel to continue the survey. Brian McFarland and Bruce Miller headed to the upstream tunnel to complete the survey in that area. As they made their way through the upstream tunnel, they encountered challenging conditions. The tunnel was low in places, and the water was very silty, making it difficult to navigate. As Miller led the way, laying out a new knotted survey line, Brian followed closely behind, taking compass readings and recording notes on the survey slate. However, their progress was briefly halted when Brian's battery pack, a critical component of a diver's equipment that powers essential tools like lights and communication devices, became entangled in the line. A situation that could have compromised their ability to communicate, navigate, and even breathe. Miller quickly swam back to assist, his heart racing. The sight of tangled equipment was alarming, but together, as a team, they managed to free the equipment. Shortly after, the line became snarled again, this time on Brian's safety reel. Instead of panicking, a sense of unity took over and it was quickly resolved. They were finally able to continue their survey without any further issues. They communicated with gestures and quick glances, each person's determination shining in their eyes. As Bruce Miller turned around at the sixth room, he was met with an unsettling sight. Brian McFarland was nowhere to be seen. A few moments passed and Bruce's concern grew. Bill Gavin approached and Bruce informed him that Brian was still in the upstream tunnel. Bill swam up the line and found Brian, who had strayed from the line but appeared to be unharmed. So with the team united, they began their ascent, heading towards the well, located at the bottom of the fifth room. The delay in finding Brian had taken a toll on their air supply, and they had been operating at a depth of 220 feet for an extended period. As they reached the well, Bill hooked up to his specially modified deep propulsion vehicle, also known as DPV, a device used in scuba diving to help divers swim more efficiently and conserve energy while underwater. It is essentially an underwater scooter that allows divers to cover longer distances without getting tired. Bill was ready to begin his exit, marking the start of their journey back to the surface. As the situation unfolded, Brian McFarland suddenly flashed a distress signal to Bill Gavin, indicating that he was out of air. Without hesitation, Bill immediately handed over his long hose, allowing Brian to breathe from his air supply. Bill then activated his DPV and began to ascend the well, carefully venting his dry suit to control their speed. However, Brian had lost control of his own dry suit and was clinging to Bill's manifold, causing them to rise rapidly to a depth of 100 feet. Bruce Miller quickly intervened, grabbing Brian's legs in an attempt to stabilize his buoyancy. Bill tried to persuade Brian to switch to Bruce's air supply, but Brian refused to release his grip on the manifold. With his own air supply dwindling to 1,000 psi, which is pounds per square inch, Bill knew that they had to move quickly because as this pressure decreases, it suggests that the air supply is running low, which can be critical for safety and ability to breathe. They still had about 700 feet to cover to reach the entrance, and he was now sharing air with Brian. Bill powered the DPV, with Brian and Bruce clinging to him, and they began their ascent through the cave system. They navigated through the fourth room, the shortcut, and into the second room, making progress, but with Brian struggling to breathe. Bill realized that this was going to be a close call. As they approached the duct under the first room, they experienced another sudden ascent, this time from 110 feet to 60 feet in depth. Brian's dry suit buoyancy was still out of control, and Bruce thought about cutting it to release some air. However, he worried that the sudden rush of cold water could panic Brian and make things worse. A dry suit is designed to keep divers warm and buoyant, but if it traps too much air, it can cause problems underwater. Bruce knew that he had to act carefully to keep Brian calm and safe. They finally reached the balcony and entered the low-bedding plane passage before the restricted portion at the cave entrance. Bill's regulator began to breathe harder, and he realized that even at this close proximity to the entrance, they were still at risk of drowning. With his lungs burning, Bill looked over at Bruce and saw that he had only one regulator. Brian had switched to Bruce's long hose. Now, 2 divers were out of air, with the restriction still to navigate. In a state of panic, Bill took 3 breaths from Bruce's regulator, but he was numb from the lack of air, stressed, and barely coherent. It was then that Brian let go, and they realized that he had passed out. Bill feared that Brian might not survive, but Bruce quickly grabbed him and pulled him through the restriction, finally reaching their decompression stop with oxygen bottles. The 3 divers went through their prolonged decompression, burdened by the mental horror of the ordeal that they had just endured. While they survived, the incident was a stark reminder of the risks and challenges associated with underwater cave diving. Schroeder's Pants Cave. You've seen some scary stories of caves, but this one is the worst. James and his friends go into the dark Pants Cave, not knowing what they'll find. What happens next is terrifying. The screams still haunt, the nightmares still scare, and the tragedy will leave you speechless. This is the last part of today's cave stories, and it is very disturbing. Located in Herkimer County, New York, near Goodell Corners, Schroeder's Pants Cave is a remarkable limestone cave that showcases the region's unique geological features. The cave structure is characterized by a series of narrow passages, towering ceilings, and vast underground chambers. The walls and ceilings are adorned with stunning formations, including stalactites, stalagmites, and flowstones. Hans Schroeder, a German-born explorer with a sense of adventure, discovered the cave in the late 19th century. During his initial expedition, he became extremely excited and accidentally ripped his pants on a jagged rock. As a result, he had to continue exploring the cave in his underwear, which was quite embarrassing. His friends found the incident hilarious and called him Pantsless Hans. Over time, the cave itself came to be known as Schroeder's Pants Cave, a humorous reminder of Schroeder's awkward yet amusing mishap. November 15, 1965 was a typical northeast winter morning, cold and snowy. James, a 23-year-old adventurer, set out to explore the local Schroeder's Pants Cave in Dolgeville, New York with his 2 friends, Haiti Miller and Charles Bennett. The 3 friends had met at the Boston Grotto of the National Theological Society and were all active members. James was an avid and enthusiastic young caver, always prepared for his adventures. He had even won an award from the National Biological Society for his outstanding scientific papers. As they trekked through the knee-deep snow, James's excitement grew. He had been to the cave entrance before, but this time he was determined to explore its depths. His friends were equally eager, and they made their way to the cave together. Little did they know that this adventure would turn into a tragic event that would change their lives forever. James was a seasoned caver, but this cave had its own secrets and dangers. The group was about to face a challenge that would test their skills, their friendship, and their will to survive. James and his friends set out to explore the cave, but they should have been more prepared. A typical caving expedition to a challenging cave like Schroeder's Pants Cave should have included essential gear like detailed maps, first aid kits, and communication devices. However, they had none of these important tools. Undeterred, they trekked through the knee-deep snow for nearly a mile, finally reaching the cave entrance. James carefully hung a rope, and the three friends descended 50 feet into the unknown. As they made their way through the tight, pitch-black tunnels, their headlamps cast flickering shadows on the walls. A compass, rope guides, and emergency whistles would have been crucial in navigating the treacherous terrain, but they were not equipped. Despite the risks, they pressed on, eventually stumbling into a large chamber 235 feet from the entrance. James and his friends were exploring a big cave when they came across a huge room. In the middle of the room was a deep, dark hole that went down 75 feet. James, being a brave and experienced caver, decided to climb down into the hole. He started to make his way down, but then things quickly took a turn for the worse. As he descended, the sound of dripping water grew louder, and the air got colder. Suddenly, a lot of water started pounding down, hitting James from all sides. He tried to hurry up and get to the bottom, but it was too late. His rope got tangled, and his arm got twisted in a bad way. James was stuck, unable to move, and his friends up above could only watch in shock. The water kept pouring down, and James was in a desperate situation. He was running out of time, and his friends were powerless to help him. The accident had happened so quickly, and now James was fighting for his life. James's friends were in a state of panic as they tried to pull him to safety. They tugged on the rope with all of their might, but it was no use. James was stuck, and they couldn't budge him. One of his friends knew that they needed help, and fast. He left the cave to find assistance, hoping to find someone who could rescue James. A team of 6 specialists was flown in from Washington to lead the rescue effort. However, what James's friends didn't know was that this team was made up of young men with little to no experience. James's rescue was their first big test, and they were in way over their heads. As the team arrived at the cave, they were met with a daunting task. James was still stuck, and the water was still pouring down on him. The team tried to come up with a plan, but their inexperience showed. They were unsure of what to do, and James's life hung in the balance. The recovery team tried various methods to retrieve James's body, including rope-based systems, pulley-based systems, and manual carry. Rope-based systems use ropes and pulleys to lift or lower the person to safety, often in vertical caves or narrow passages. Pulley-based systems use pulleys to change the direction of the rope or gain mechanical advantage. Manual carry involves carrying the person to safety using manual labor. The rescue team worked hard for 3 long days to make the cave wider. They finally made progress, but it didn't last. As they pulled James's body out, the cave started to fall apart. The team had to make a tough choice. They cut the rope, and they slowly lowered James's body back down into the cave. When the human body is exposed to cold water for an extended period, it can experience a range of physiological changes, including a cold shock response, rapid drop in core body temperature, and increased risk of drowning and hypothermia. Well, in James's case, the prolonged exposure to cold water may have contributed to his body's inability to respond to the recovery team's efforts. For 41 years, James's body was left in the cave, a sad reminder of a life lost too soon. In 2003, a man named Christian Lyon decided that James deserved a proper burial. He got permission from James's family, and he went into the cave, determined to bring him home. After working hard for 4 hours, Christian finally came out, carrying James to the light. As he laid James to rest in a peaceful spot, the family gathered, tears in their eyes, feeling both sadness and relief. But as they remembered him, whispers spread among the cave explorers. What secrets had James taken with him? The cave still held many mysteries, and some now wondered if it would reveal its truths one day. What else might be hidden in the shadows, waiting to be found? Well, along with these unanswered questions, our journey into the heart of darkness comes to an end. But the memories of these 3 cave incidents will haunt us forever. Remember, some secrets are better left unexplored, and some places are better left unvisited. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay out of the darkness.